Chemical bonding. Aims of lesson. At the end of the lesson you should be able to understand the following. A basic chemical bond as it takes place to form a molecule. The following chemical bond with their respective structural formulas. Covalent bond, hydrogen gas, water, etc. and ionic bond, copper chloride, sodium chloride, etc. Introduction. Content of Term 2 must be linked to the current content. Basic agricultural chemistry. The purpose of the following lesson is to discuss the content associated with the following. Chemical compounds of elements on the periodic table. Covalent bonding and ionic bonding. Concepts and skills. Chemical bonding. Chemical bonding to form a molecule. A compound consists of two or more elements in a definite weight ratio. A molecule is the smallest recognizable group of atoms that make up a specific compound. When two or more elements join to form a molecule, the new substance does not behave like the original elements, and it also looks different. The new compound is very different, physically and chemically, from the elements from which it is composed. This is one of the great wonders of chemistry. Examples. Think of oxygen and hydrogen, both of which occur naturally as gases. Hydrogen is highly flammable, meaning it burns easily, and oxygen supports the burning process. However, when it occurs together in the form of water, we get a clear, odorless, tasteless liquid called water, which we can drink and with which we can wash and make food. By adding just one atom of the element sulfur S and 3 more oxygen atoms to water, we get another clear liquid, but one that acts very differently from water. It is called sulfuric acid, H2SO4. It is very dangerous to touch, smell or drink. Another interesting example is the element sodium, a metal with a light color. It reacts so violently with water that flames are produced when sodium gets wet. Chlorine is a green, toxic gas. You can sometimes smell chlorine in water that has been purified for drinking water or in swimming pools. When sodium and chlorine bind chemically, these two dangerous substances form the compound sodium chloride, NaCl. This compound is so safe that we use it daily in our food. This is table salt. How do atoms join to form the molecule that makes up the endless variety of compounds in nature? The type of bond is very important for chemistry, because the way a compound acts depends to a large extent on how the constituent elements bond. Let's look at this in more detail. The reasons for chemical bonding. Atoms in molecules and compounds are held together by forces called chemical bonds. Chemical bonds form because electrons of two atoms interact with each other and the atoms become bonded. The electrons that interact with each other are the valence electrons present in the outer electron shell of an atom. The motion or division of valence electrons creates forces between atoms that attract them to each other. There are two main types of chemical bonds, covalent bonds and ionic bonds. Covalent bonding. A covalent bond is a bond in which the bonds that are joined share electrons rather than electrons being transferred from one to the other. In most covalent bonds, a few electrons are shared between atoms. Where one pair of electrons is involved in the bond, we have a single bond. Where two pairs of electrons are shared, we have a double bond, and where 3 pairs are shared, we have a triple bond. Ionic bonding. An atom with one or more extra electrons, or one or more missing electrons, is called an ion. Ions that have gained electrons are called anions and are negatively charged. Ions that lack one or more electrons are called cations and are positively plus charged. Ions with opposite charges attract each other, while ions with the same charge repel each other. A chemical bond occurs when an anion and a cation together form a compound. We call this type of bond an ionic compound. Remember the following about ionic compounds. Ionic bonds form between metals and nonmetals. When we name an ionic compound, the metals are always first and the nonmetal second, for example, sodium chloride, copper chloride. Ionic compounds dissolve easily in water and other solvents. Ionic compounds in solution easily conduct electricity. Ionic compounds tend to form solids with a high melting point. Activity/assessment. This activity is designed to help you work out and understand covalent bonding of elements. How many single bonds and how many double bonds are there in the compound shown below? Name the elements involved. How many atoms of each element are involved in each compound? Can you recognize and write down the chemical formula for the upper compound? Look at the periodic table of elements. Which three elements form a molecule of the compound? C6H12O6. What is the ratio of the elements in this compound? Find out what this connection is. Ionic bonding. 2 of the 8 bonds mentioned below do not match others in terms of their bond. You should recognize them immediately. Identify them and explain how you knew they did not fit. Magnesium oxide, water, calcium chloride, potassium oxide, sodium chloride, carbon dioxide, copper chloride, iron oxide. Use the periodic table of elements to also identify the rest of these compounds. Are there common names for any of these 6 compounds, and what are they used for or where are they found? Consolidation. The lesson covered the content set out in the KEPS document. Values. By studying this lesson, you should be able to know the concepts and distinguish between chemical bonds with their respective structural formulas. Covalent bond, hydrogen gas, water, etc., and ionic bond, copper chloride, sodium chloride, etc. Learners must understand what is covered in the content in order to successfully answer questions and the use of the necessary skills. Learners will be able to use the knowledge and skills as base for progression to organic and inorganic bonds in week 3.
Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more future educational videos.